Okay, thank you very much. And do we have any remote participants? I thought we might have Windsurf online. No? Do we have any remote participants? Anybody in the Zoom room? Like somebody called Windsurf? Yes, and what's his name? Great, thank you. Yeah, that's exactly who I'm expecting. Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen, for coming to this meeting. I would have liked to be down. I don't like this pedal, but okay, we'll work with what we have. This is just a donors meeting just to go an overview of the trust fund, the status of the trust fund, and then any questions that you might have, we can have a discussion afterwards as well. I'm asking, would it be worthwhile to do a tour at the top just to quickly see who's in the room? Yes, no? Can I have a shake or a? Yes, okay, great. So let's just start from there quickly. Just very, very, very quickly so that we all know who's in the room. Yeah.
I'm Marcus Kummer, Chair Emeritus of the IGF Support Association.
Thank you.
Is this on? So, Janne Hirvonen, Finnish MFA.
Juuso Moisander, Permanent Mission of Finland, Geneva.
Maria Fernanda Garza, ICC and Leadership Panel.
I'm Ines Asiado, Digital Policy Manager at ICC.
Chris Buckridge, I'm a MAG member and also on the ICANN board.
Franz Weizsäcker, GIZ, Germany.
Philipp Schulte, Ministry for Digital Transformation, Germany.
Swaantje Jäger-Lindemann, same as Philip.
Manon van Tienhoven from the Ministry of Economic Affairs of the Netherlands.
Alice Hieve, also Ministry of Economic Affairs, Netherlands.
Jen Beard, Internet Society Foundation.
Brian Horlick, also Internet Society Foundation.
Anna Neves from Portugal.
Hendrik Eyck from Géant.
Flavio Wagner, Executive Committee of the IGF Support Association.
Jennifer Chung, MAG member and secretary for the IGF Support Association.
Pio Di Luen, is secretary of the IGF's Governance Support Association.
Masanobu Kato, CIEC from Japan.
Paul Kithinji, JZ.
Denis Tussar, UNDESA.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, let me just start off with saying that your support is very much appreciated. Without you, there wouldn't be an IGF, so thank you. Did we miss? Sorry, Vint, please.
No problem. I wasn't sure that you could see me on the screen. I'm Vince Cerf. I'm chairman of the leadership panel and vice president of Google.
Okay. And just to introduce myself, my name is Tengata Masango, head of the IGF Secretariat. And with me is Naomi Kosaka.
Yes.
And she is our financial officer. She works in DESA, CDPMO, and she works very hard behind the scenes just to make sure that all our finances are in order and we can do our requisitions, pay people, etc., receive funds. So she's, we really appreciate her and we wouldn't be able to function without her.
Thank you. Thank you. So shall I start?
Yes. So what we're going to do, as I said, she's going to give the financial overview now.
Okay. Thank you very much, Tengatai. So my name is Naomi Kosaka. I just assumed taking care of the IGF Secretariat Finance Matters last March. So I'm quite new. but I would like to show you the summary of the IGF financial status. So let me start. So IGF funding structure, overview of the IGF funding structure is as shown on the slide. So there is a main grant and a host country grant. And for this presentation, we will share the details on the financial status of the main grant. In the last IGF annual meeting in Saudi Arabia, we announced that the contribution received for the support of Global South is put in the main grant going forward. So I'm only showing the main grant today. Okay, so what you're seeing now is the budget and the contributions. So green line at the top of the graph, that shows the project budget for the IGF. IGF annual budget is around 2.9 million US dollars. Over the years, we have received strong and consistent support from our donors. Our donor base is led by governments, as well as tech community and private sector entities. So in general, 55% of our donors are government entities, 30% from tech communities, and the rest from the private sector. For the year 2025, as at 31 May, we have received already contribution totaling 892,000. These include the contribution from European Commission, Finland, Germany GIZ, Norway, AT&T, Eric and Wendy Schmidt Fund, and the Internet Society Foundation. Based on the latest projection, we expect to receive an additional 1.5 million. This will bring the total 2025 contribution to nearly 2.4 million. So the increase compared to 2024 will be about $500,000. But as I mentioned before, this increase includes the $250,000 in support for Global South support. So it's now put together in the main grant. Donors who have already pledged generous contribution for the remainder of the year include European Commission, Finland, Germany GIZ, Netherlands, UK, ICANN, NRO, and Silicon Valley Community Foundation. We sincerely appreciate your continued support to the IGF. We also would like to thank the members of the leadership panel for their stakeholder engagement and also fundraising efforts. Next slide shows the trend and the level of expenditure against the level of contributions. As you have seen in the previous slide, there was an increasing trend in the contribution, and so as expenditures. The solid line in blue represents contribution, the cash received, and the actual expenditures are shown in orange. The dashed lines are our projection for 2025, made as of 31 May. In 2023, you see there was a 500,000 surplus realized, and in 2024, we also had a surplus of about 170,000 realized. These surpluses realized have been utilized to fund the capacity building activities and Global South support. I'm going to show some more details about 2025 implementation. This slide shows the performance of the IGF by output for 2025. So IGF Secretariat budget is structured to support both operational infrastructure and direct mandate delivery. Input costs, such as office expenses, ensure effective coordination and oversight. Output costs, such as capacity building, support to MAG meeting and Global South, and intersessional activities and outreach. These are for directly advanced implementation. In the remaining months of 2025, the IGF plans to implement capacity building initiatives further. And contribution from GIZ and Norway has been instrumental in supporting additional capacity building activities and also providing assistance to Global South in 2025. These activities are contingent upon receiving necessary financial contributions. And we wish to emphasize that with adequate resources, IGF Secretariat is well positioned to deliver. This slide shows the year-end fund balance of the IGF main grant, along with the projected balance for the end of 2025. In 2024, we reviewed the minimum reserve level and increased it to 1.4 million. So you see slight increase in the blue section. The year-end fund balance serves as the basis for the planning of resources and activities in the subsequent year. This ensures the sustainable operation of the IGF Secretariat. So as you know, 2025 marks the 20th anniversary of the IGF and the last year of the Phase 3. UNGA will review the renewal of IGF mandate later this year. The stronger likelihood is an enhanced IGF mandate, building on its 20-year legacy. In this respect, sustained and enhanced donor support is essential to ensure the IGF Secretariat can continue to deliver on its mandate now and into the future. We are committed to facilitate a streamlined contribution process. The simplest method is an exchange of letters and acceptance. If donors prefer a more formal arrangement, a standard UN contribution agreement template is also available. We hope we can continue to count on your support for the IGF beyond 2025. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Naomi. And I just also wanted to underline is that we also receive in-kind support, which is not recorded in the trust fund. We also have, for instance, JPOs. We have a JPO from Germany, from Norway, and we have a secondment, which is Roman as well. So those are very important. And one thing that we should remember is that they're for a set amount of time. So next year, for instance, one JPO goes away, so we have to find financing as well to maintain the same staff level. So that's also very difficult. And we've also had in-kind contribution also from GIZ for our media campaigns as well. So that's also very much appreciated, and we have ICANN and ISOC who do send ambassadors or people to the IGF here, and also the national and regional IGFs. I'm just counting them, and even though we are separate entities, but they do sponsor those, so that's also very much appreciated. With that, we can open the floor if anybody has any questions.
It's Vin. I just wanted to draw attention to something that you told me in an earlier IGF, and that is that before the Secretariat can take an action, it has to be funded with money that's actually in hand. And the implication of that is that since there's a lot of prep leading up to the annual IGF, to say nothing of support during the year for intersessional activity, we need to pre-place funding in the account. So that means we have to build up at least a significant amount of capability before your work begins. And on the presumption that a typical annual budget is about $3 million, we need to have accumulated at least that much so that you can begin working at full speed as each year opens. I assume that's still the case, but if it is, we should reinforce the point that we need advanced funds so that you can begin your work timely.
Yes, thank you very much, Vint, for bringing that up. When we make our work plan for the year, we have to work on the money that's in the bank, basically. It has to hit the bank, and then we can plan to it. So if we receive money, let's say extra money in June, for instance, it's very difficult to redo the work plan to incorporate that money. I mean, it's possible, but it's difficult. And we can't really make long-term planning and commitments past the amount of money that's in our bank account. And then also, we also need the model of pledges that we see for the IGF's trust fund is actually yearly. If we had, 3-year, 5-year pledges that we know, it will make also planning much, much easier. A few governments like Finland and the Netherlands, we do know that this amount of money is coming for this amount of time, so it's easier for us to plan on that. Any, if you want to add? Okay. Any, yes.
Thank you. Well, it's great to be at this donors meeting. I'd like to thank one of my fellow donors for forwarding this invitation, because unfortunately I didn't receive the invitation from the Secretariat. So just that as a first slight remark. I was wondering, which activities do you exactly mean or see under the idea of capacity building? How is that different to travel support? Which activities do you employ with capacity building? And finally, I was wondering, and this is something we should maybe discuss amongst the donors, if we shouldn't have this meeting in a more open fashion, invite any stakeholder, have it just open on the track, that this is the donors meeting, or that we're going to be discussing the finances of the IGF. I would like to see personally much more transparency for anyone to understand the budget behind the IGF. The IGF doesn't pay itself, it's been paid by donors. And I think if we wouldn't have this session behind closed doors, it could also attract new donors, getting them interested in financing the IGF. So happy to hear your thoughts on this and maybe other donors' thoughts on this. Thanks.
Okay, we have another question.
Hi, this is Joyce speaking from APNIC and also as a member of the IGFSA EC. I want to echo what Elisa said, and I absolutely agree. I think that we could consider making the donor meeting a bit more accessible for people to join, to attend, to understand the funding mechanisms of the IGF. I think this year especially, we've been talking a lot about the funding operational aspects of the IGF, looking into the renewal of the IGF and the WSIS mandate. And I found in many conversations, people don't really understand what they're talking about when they're talking about funding, because they don't have the basic knowledge, even of how much the IGF costs, for example. So I think if people first understood how the funding is being done, the challenges that the IGF Secretariat is having amidst all these things, we would be able to have a much better and a more frank conversation of how we can improve and strengthen the IGF. So that's my view. I really do hope that you will consider this. Thank you.
Sure. Anna.
Thank you very much. I just would like to remind that as far as I remember, these meetings were more for the donors to acknowledge how their funding was being used. So I think that was why we usually met in closed doors. So the purpose is, of course, to have more donors, but as far as I understood, it was more to give some, liability on what was being funded by our countries. Portugal is not a donor nowadays, but I really hope that in the next year we will come back. Let's see. But not to have more and more reactions on the openness of this meeting, but only to make people understand, if I'm not mistaken, that it was more a meeting to understand where our funding was used.
Yes, yes, exactly. It's a report back to the donors. And we have tried both, by the way, over the lifetime. We have had open meetings, we have had closed meetings. Open meetings sometimes were not that productive as such, but we can take another look at it and have different types of meetings. We can have, I wouldn't call it completely closed, because if you want to be a donor, you're always, you can come into this meeting, and there's not somebody there checking are you a donor or not. But I do understand what you're saying, but we can have different types of meetings, types of meetings where we explain, this type of meeting where we go down through what has happened in the past year. So yes, we can do that, or try and do that at least. I will take a crack at your capacity building and travel question, and then I'll give it to Naomi. Is that okay? So yes, you could say it is capacity building, travel support, but travel support is one type of capacity building. There's also another type of capacity building which more compliance with ODA, Overseas Development Assistance, where the assistance has to be in Suti, where the people actually are. So we're not basically traveling people to, I'll just use Geneva as a thing, traveling people to Geneva for a conference. Some donor countries want that money to be spent in that country where we're having that activity, be it for parliamentarians, be it for the youth in that country, instead of just buying air tickets. And it's more effective as well, and you can get more bang for your buck if you actually spend money on 1 or 2 tickets from Geneva to that place. I'll just say Harare, for instance, to Harare, to train, 40 youth, 60 youth, or parliamentarians on something. So that's kind of like the difference that we use. Yeah.
Well, the capacity building activities, and for example, Chengatai mentioned about travel, so we do, make the travel arrangement in accordance with UN rules and regulations, which is quite strict.
Yeah.
So.
Oh, okay. Yes. After you.
Yeah. So I don't know if I added some additional useful information or not, but.
Yeah, so there's 2 types of capacity building.
Right.
We must support people to participate in the global dialogue, yes, but we also must strengthen the local dialogue so that they can more effectively participate in the global dialogue, yes. Vint, please.
Yeah, just another notion of capacity building. Those of you in the room are well aware that we have some 176 NRIs of various kinds. And the ability to help them grow their own capability is very important. And that doesn't necessarily mean travel. It might mean just local, facilitating local activity, connections among the NRI participants and other interested parties, whether it might be local officials or Internet Society chapters or other things. That's not travel money, that's facilitating capacity building, and something which I think we need to concentrate on in the years ahead, assuming the IGF's mandate is renewed, because that's where the action is.
Exactly. Thank you very much, Vint. And that's something that we're going to be looking at as well for the next mandate, knock on wood, that we are going to be having. That we have to strengthen our capacity building activities in situ. Yes.
Thanks. Building on Vint's first intervention and also the question on the transparency of the funding, I'm all for opening the meetings up for stakeholders, but I think we need two sets of meetings of sessions here. We need one for like a general, you can fit in the agenda, general IGF funding, status of the budget thing, and then we need a separate discussion for the donors. And in the end, we will be making the detailed exchange with you guys on our contribution, of course, always by email, in written format, and in, they're confidential. So we're not happy discussing our pledging in front of 1,000 people. There have been cases where things have been misunderstood and there's a tweet out before I'm out of the room, which is not correct on, Finnish funding continuing or not. So just to make that point. But the point that I initially wanted to make was like a question of clarification on the continuation of the mandate. Technically, the mandate ends at the end of the year, is that correct? So you would be making a report on the use of funds during the project, and you will be submitting that to the donors. And if my memory serves me correct, 10 years ago, you would be asking us to continue or to allow you to use the funds
for the next phase.
For the next phase. So is there an estimated timeline for this? Because I mean, Wint's point on the necessity of have the funding to continue the work, like, the sooner the better. That's my point. But when do you estimate to have that? Thanks.
Okay. One of the things is that, yes, the mandate ends on the 31st of December, but bills are still being sent to us even in January for things that have been done in December, November, etc. So it usually takes a minimum of 6 months to close the accounts for the previous year. So if you want, so the request to use funds for the next phase may actually come before you see the certified accounting for this year. One other thing I just wanted to mention is that all the financial records are on the website, so you can see who donated, how much, and we've broken it down by the mandates as well, and also totaling up by the donor. So it is available there, and we also have the certified accounting statements on the website as well. So there's, as far as reading the financial records, there's nothing that is hidden. It's all there. Yeah. Yes.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Fiona Songa from IGFSA. We've been supporting the national and regional internet governance forums over a period of time. I just want us to think of a different way of handling the sponsorship and support moving forward. If we do get an extension for the IGF and for the Secretariat to continue, we probably need to think of a different way of working. In this case, I was thinking that when we look at the topics within the Internet Governance Forum, we are so focused on the issues that are internet related, which is very important. But we do not give and pay sufficient attention to national and regional internet governance forums and how to help the organizers of those forums so that they are not dependent on your secretariat or on us as IGFSA, but begin to also work systems with their stakeholders in their local environments who can support them. Because it's through those systems that people begin to see the relevance of the whole bottom-up conversation process of the internet governance multi-stakeholder engagement, and you're able to then have at the top level the ability to expand donors. So that at the time when you're now having a donor meeting, you find that it is, yes, you're wanting more donors to come in, but how are you reaching those donors? And I think this is the second time I'm saying we have corporates on the African continent that are able to sponsor, but we have not engaged them sufficiently. Between the last IGF and this one, I've tried to reach out, and they say, okay, there's a global meeting. Yeah, then I give them the link and they come in and see what it is about and say, would like to be part of it. Then we say, fine. We give them the IGFSA documents. Say, what about the secretariat? How do we then engage at that level? So these pending engagements between you, Chengeta, and I'm still willing to assist. Let's see if we can have that also coming in to help expand and diversify the donor base that you depend on. Thank you.
No, thank you very much, and thank you very much for your offer, and we will take you up on that, no doubt. We have, as you know, 176 national and regional IGF. Some are more self-sufficient than the others, and I think there's a big opportunity there for knowledge sharing on how those ones that are more successful actually do it in their local communities. And that is something that we're going to be looking at, given the opportunity closer next year. Thanks.
Indeed, many thanks for your insights and remarks on the financial situation. We very much appreciate your openness in this regard. And I don't want to preempt the discussions going ahead, but certainly we are in this exercise in the long term, and we certainly hope that also the other donors are looking at the IGF in the longer term. What I'm bit concerned of is that even though we've engaged at least in a multitude of discussions to encourage also other actors, stakeholders, to step up their support, we still haven't, in a way, seen much interest in this regard. I would be curious to know, like, what sort of actions or steps should we engage in, or have you considered so far to, for instance, attract more funding from, for instance, the private sector, or well, also in general from other possible donors. I think one of the aspects in this regard is visibility, transparency also to some degree. But it is important that, sorry, it's the third day of. So indeed, important to increase the visibility and, in a way, the public, let's say, knowledge of the work, of the valuable work that the IGF is doing. Increase the overall attention to these topics among the public. So that is maybe one way to, in a way, increase also in concrete terms the support that the IGF is receiving from the donors.
Yes, no, thank you very much. And we've been looking at various ways. Right now, Herman, and with the help of the GIZ as well, have been working on increasing the visibility of the IGF. And I think that has borne some results. The leadership panel, especially Vinsurf, has helped bringing in new donors. We've had the Eric Schmidt Foundation is a new donor that has come in, and that's through Vinsurf's contacts. Thank you very much, Vint. And we've had one of the issues is that we can't really hire a fundraiser, not the way that the Secretariat, when I'm talking about the UN Secretariat, we can't, or I'm told, we can't hire a fundraiser, which is different from the other agencies who are not secretariat-based. But we've been talking about ways around that with, donations in kind, etc., to see how we can look at finding ways to raise or to attract businesses. We've also engaged the business stakeholders because business language is a different language from IGO language, from government language as such, this is the competence of the UN, right? We know how to speak to governments better or more than, or either IGOs, than we know how to speak to business. And we've been having the assistance of business to help us speak their language. Mm-hmm.
If I may, also in continuation of this particular topic, and with regard the upcoming negotiation on Business Plus 20, I think one of the topics on the agenda, and what has been covered also here, is the fact that could we explore the opportunity to at least partly finance the IGF on a more sustainable basis from the UN regular budget. And this is something that we would be keen to explore more in detail.
Yes. Yes, thank you. And we hope that, yes, we can do that with the support of the member states. It has to be a member state-driven initiative as such. Yeah. Any other questions? Adam.
It's Vin again. Just an observation.
Yes, Vint.
At the leadership panel, we've been discussing various and sundry ways of making the case to different sectors in the private sector, or different segments of the private sector, of the importance of the Internet Governance Forum and the Internet to their businesses. And I expect to pursue that during the last half of this year in order to craft messages that will, we hope, resonate with parties who can recognize the value of not only the IGF annual events, but the NRIs in particular, and the primacy of Internet in their businesses, which is becoming increasingly apparent. So hopefully we can make the case that IGF is contributing to the utility of Internet to the private sector interests.
That's right. Adam?
Thank you. Adam Peake, ICANN. Changatai, thank you for putting on again a wonderful meeting. And I guess as a donor, the key donor is the government of Norway, so thanks to them. Where to begin? I agree it would be helpful to have a more private donors meeting where we could perhaps discuss ideas. I was thinking if you can't provide a fundraiser, perhaps just as an idea, perhaps we collectively could provide a fundraiser if it was a shared role, but that's not something that we could discuss particularly easily, talking about in an open space. The NRIs are essential and gold dust, or Vint said, but there are now 176 of them. We support, through the ICANN group of different departments, probably 30 or 40 of them. And in the early days, we could support a new one when it popped up in the country that we happen to be the engagement manager of. That's no longer possible. I think I support about 3 with either donations or on an organizing committee. Again, that might be helpful as something that donors could discuss, because I see many repeat donors in the European region doing similar things. But again, it's a matter of coordination, because with 176, we just don't have 176 people to attend 176 meetings and organize, and all the rest. So a little bit of coordination amongst the people who are contributing would be helpful, I think. And we will continue. That's the other thing. So thank you.
Thank you very much, Adam, and thank you very much to ICANN. Yes, much appreciated. I'll give it a 6 count, and then I can return some time to you. if there aren't any further questions. But just to say that, please, if you have any ideas, if you have any questions, please reach out to us. At least we'll make sure your name is on the list. I'm not too sure what happened, but we'll make sure. But yes, you know we are very, very approachable. So anything, we want to work together. This is our IGF. It's not just the Secretariat. So we'll work together to make it as successful as possible. Thank you. Mm-hmm.